A man steps out of the evening crowd on a San Francisco sidewalk and hears quick footsteps behind him. He turns just enough to see a stranger closing the distance, arm lifting, face blank. The first shot hits like a hammer. The second knocks him down. People scatter. Tires squeal. The shooter is already moving away, disappearing into the city as if the street had swallowed him. In the fall of 1973, San Francisco begins to feel hunted. The victims are white men and women chosen at random, shot at close range, or attacked without warning. The crimes are not robberies that went wrong. They are targeted violence meant to terrorize, carried out by men who believe the killings are a kind of revenge. Police will later learn the perpetrators call themselves the Death Angels. The public will come to know the spree by the name investigators assign the case, Zebra, taken from the special Z police radio channel assigned to investigators. The first widely recognized strike comes on October 20th, 1973. Richard and Keita Haig are walking near their Telegraph Hill home when they are forced into a van at gunpoint. Keita is killed and left near railroad tracks, her injuries catastrophic. Richard survives, beaten unconscious and slashed, later found wandering near her body with his hands bound. In shock, he gives police the clearest early description they have: several young black men and a white van. It is a lead, but it does not stop the violence. 10 days later, on October 30th, 1973, Frances Rose, 28, is shot repeatedly while sitting in her car near the University of California Extension. Witnesses describe a man firing from close range and fleeing. The pattern that will come to define Zebra starts to harden into something detectives can recognize: sudden contact, sudden gunfire, and an escape fast enough that the city can't catch its breath before the next call comes in. Through late 1973 and into early 1974, fear spreads beyond the immediate crime scenes. People stop lingering on sidewalks. Couples second-guess evening plans. Tourists cancel trips. Businesses in nightlife neighborhoods report drops in traffic. Streets that used to stay busy after dark empty out early. The victims are ordinary citizens doing ordinary things: walking home, stepping off a bus, bending to pick something up from a car, carrying groceries, heading to work. The randomness is the point. Anyone could be next, and the killers want the city to feel that. By January 1974, the spree accelerates. On January 28th, multiple shootings occur in a short span. Tana Smith is killed on the sidewalk. Vincent Wallen, 69, is shot in the back near his home. John Bambick, 87, is killed. Jane Holly is shot inside a laundromat while doing laundry. Roxanne McMillan survives being shot. The attacks come quickly and without a consistent neighborhood. The city's anxiety turns into a kind of paralysis, the sense that the rules of public life have changed overnight. Investigators begin to see common threads. The shootings often involve a small-caliber handgun, and the killers tend to approach close, fire repeatedly, and flee on foot. But knowing the method is not the same as knowing the men. Hundreds of tips come in. Most go nowhere. The more the killings continue, the more pressure builds on law enforcement to show progress, to show control, to stop the bleeding. The response becomes a full-scale manhunt known as Operation Zebra. More than 100 officers are deployed. Patrol patterns change. Police flood certain corridors and intersections. Rewards are posted, and by mid-April 1974, money is being offered for information that can end the spree. At the same time, tension rises over how to police a city where the suspects, as described in multiple incidents, appear to be young black men. After Nelson Shields IV is killed on April 16, 1974, the city authorizes a stop-and-question program focused on young black men in designated areas. Civil rights groups challenge the tactic almost immediately. A federal judge, Alfonso Zirpoli, orders limits on the dragnet, forcing the city to scale back interrogations and fight the order in court. For many residents, the manhunt becomes a second crisis layered on top of the first, a city terrified of random murder, and a community furious at being treated as suspects because of race. The killings still continue in the background. On April 1st, Salvation Army cadets Tom Rainwater and Linda Story are shot while walking. Story survives, Rainwater does not. On April 14th, 2 teenagers are shot and survive. The violence feels unhooked from motive that a stranger can understand. It feels like a message written in bullets. You are not safe, and you are not chosen for anything you did. Then the case breaks, not through a dramatic chase, but through information investigators are finally able to use. Detectives identify a group tied to the attacks: Manuel Moore, Larry Green, Jesse Lee Cooks, and J.C.X. Simon. The prosecution's theory is blunt and chilling. The victims were selected because they were white, and the attacks were meant to be random, to maximize fear. In the perpetrator's own framing, the killings were a mission, a way to seize power by making ordinary life feel fragile. The arrests bring relief, but not peace. There is still the question of how many people were actually attacked and how many cases might never be fully connected. Authorities confirm at least 15 murders and multiple wounded victims during the acknowledged spree. For months, residents had watched the news and felt the city tightening around them, felt the sidewalks emptying, felt the way a stranger's footsteps could suddenly sound like a threat. In court, the Zebra case becomes about more than individual shootings. It becomes about conspiracy, about a group decision to hunt strangers, about a plan carried out across a city's streets. A grand jury indicts the men in May 1974. They are ultimately convicted of first-degree murder and conspiracy to commit first-degree murder, and they receive life sentences. Years later, the public sees the story again in parole hearings and denials, the reminder that the terror itself lasted months, but the consequences last for years. For the families, the word Zebra is not just a label from a police radio channel. It is the name that marks the moment an ordinary day turned into a death notice. For survivors, it is the memory of a stranger closing distance fast and the sound of gunfire meant for anyone. And for San Francisco, it is a reminder of what it feels like when violence is designed to be random and racial hatred is turned into a hunting plan. The killings ended, but the damage didn't stop with the last shot. Months of terror reshaped routines, deepened mistrust, and left questions no verdict could fully answer. Why those victims? Why that street? Why that hour? What is certain is the simple, brutal fact at the center of it all. A small group decided to hunt strangers, and for a stretch of 1973 and 1974, San Francisco lived with the knowledge that a walk to the corner could be the last thing a person ever did. Thank you for listening to Homicide Files. Subscribe for more true crime stories.